Hey folks, walk with me. I was going to make a different video today, and I found myself continuously struggling to keep in mind what that video was from yesterday to today. And it dawned on me that I'm just completely exhausted and burned out. Not just exhausted like you haven't slept enough exhausted. Just also burned out from the incessant noise. The election was a lot. It was a lot. I think it was a lot, no matter who you voted for, because the rhetoric and the endless available channels for noise is so astoundingly high that there was seemingly an inescapability to it, and also some sort of common conformity toward the most at their wits' end group of people. And what I mean by that is, the people who spend 24/7, 365 talking about politics and culture war and, just spouting how their side is correct and how the other side is intrinsically dangerous and is coming for your guns, or is coming for your children, or is coming for your free speech. Obviously I spanned a couple different ends of the spectrum there, because depending on who you're tuned into and what you're sort of believing, any of those things apply, right? But it is always this fevered pitch of not only people who incessantly drone on and on about nothing other than politics, but it's also that those people, for whatever reason, seem to be extreme no matter which side they're on, right? You're either left in a position where you're marching toward this fascist dictatorship where your vote will never be cast or never be counted again, and there's going to be military tribunals and just general militarization of the streets against American citizens. Or you're on this endless march toward communism where they're going to want to turn everyone gay or something. They're going to take your kids from you. They're going to take your guns. They're going to tell you what words you can say and what words you can't say. And it's the end of the country, right? It's this endless droning on about these things. What I think I've learned in my many decades of sometimes brushing up lightly against this stuff and sometimes being very much in the thick of it is the extremes are almost always wrong. And yes, I understand that the moment when the extreme is correct, I don't want to say right or left because I don't want it to be misconstrued. I understand that the moment when the extreme is correct and they either do come for your guns or the dictator starts dictating, or that's it. Everyone looks around then and goes, how could we have prevented this? But the other element of it is spending decades, or you could even look at, this was before my time, but you could look at from McCarthy on, if you want to even go modern era, or you could go back to the internment camps around World War II. But I understand that when the extremists are correct, that then you're in a really dire situation. But it's problematic when there are people who have channels. And yes, I can maybe literally mean YouTube channels, but I also mean like access to large groups of people via X, aka Twitter. Well, I'm just going to name a bunch of social media platforms, but I just mean via social media predominantly, right? Or the internet. Voices can just reach larger groups of people than in any period in history. And they want to capitalize on that, right? Those voices want to put stuff out there. I'm not going to say all, but a lot. And certainly the loudest ones, most likely. Their main goal is to get people to incessantly watch their stuff. And we're just so steeped in fear. Both sides are so steeped in fear. And it's going to make it really hard that if someday the real threat reveals itself, it's going to make it harder to identify it and to rise up against it, because you're being told that day in, day out, 24/7 for decades. And it's too much noise, right? It's the whole signal from noise problem, right? Or the wheat from the chaff, if you want to think of it that way. Everything is all of a sudden just wheat and there is no chaff, right? Or everything is all of a sudden signal and there is no noise. And that's a problem. And it's tremendously, from a mental health perspective, from a mental well-being perspective, is different than just being tired, exhausted, right? It's there's a burned out, fried, overwhelmed, to be honest, a gaslit element to it. So I would just say, no matter what side you're on, and hopefully I'm trying to frame this in a way that's not particular to if you're a sad Democrat and you lost, or if you're a super happy Republican because you won. I'm trying to sort of across the board this thing. If there's any way for you to put some distance between yourself and the loud voices that are constantly telling you that there is some existential threat right around the corner, or at your doorstep, or that it is imminent, right? And I don't understand how there's never the call out. I'm thinking of someone like, I'm trying not to, I'm not going to name names because I'm trying to across the boards this thing, like I said. But you can't, it's crazy to me that nothing gets called out as it can't be imminent for 40 years, right? You can't talk about the same thing coming at any moment for 40 years and just have people believe it for 40 years. But that's what is happening. So even if there are things that you worry about or that you agree with or whatever, right? If you're honestly super worried about them coming for your guns, okay, that's fine. If it's just something intrinsic in you that you just feel that way, okay. if you are just constantly worried about a march toward fascism, right? Or the blending of the corporate and government states, and that they're going to crush workers' rights. And okay, I understand that that's a concern. And you can be vigilant, and you can look for things that you want to speak up against. You can look for things that you want to support based on those viewpoints. But you don't just have to endlessly exist in this place where you are convinced that that thing is actually happening at this moment. Hopefully you can understand the difference between incessantly thinking that that thing is happening at that moment versus having an actual piece of legislation, having an actual proposed plan, having an actual court case that you want to speak out against, that you want to protest, or that you want to support, and you want to donate to, and you want to put up signs for, whatever. Hopefully you understand the difference between those things. Because to live in the first world where it's always happening, whether you can point to things that are happening or not, this is the road to, I don't have a good word for it, burnout, overwhelm, just fried. And if we can get ourselves some distance from fried, I think it would do everyone a great service. I honestly don't expect that that's going to happen, unfortunately. But I wanted to be one voice on a video that may get single-digit views. Will very likely get single-digit views. But for the period of time that it can exist online and be seen by anyone, then there's always a chance that it does connect with some people and gives maybe an alternative to what otherwise maybe feels a little bit like just sort of a reactive, like a knee-jerk reaction response to all of this stuff. All right, folks, I'm tired, and I'm going to try to take my own advice. And I hope that you are doing well, that you're staying safe, that you are finding ways to connect to the things that are important to you. If you walked with me, we got about 13 minutes in. If you didn't, no worries. I truly appreciate you watching until the end. And as always, I will see you in the next video.